Welcome to this short video about sociology. This is just a quick run through of some key points. I've done 4 videos on the solutions to crime and sociology. So this is particularly relevant for that topic, and it relates specifically to OCR G673 A2 Sociology OCR exam. So you can see that we can talk about functionalists as focusing on retributive justice, or supporting the concept of retributive justice. Retributive justice is the idea of fair and just treatment, focused on the basis of just rewards. In other words, a fair outcome based on the behaviour of individuals. This is based on, in the legal system, on the behaviour of the defendant, person who's accused of harming another or others, and the behaviour and conduct of the plaintiff, the person who claims that they have been harmed. So it might actually, so the functionalists argue that the consensus, the shared culture of society, is important. The culture of society is important in terms of moral boundaries, keeping society going. One of the reasons for crime is a lack of clear moral boundaries. Therefore, the legal system needs to reinforce the moral boundaries through fair treatment, punishment of behaviour that is wrong. So in a case, for example, where someone accuses another of harming them, the legal system is supposed to weigh up fairly and balance the actions of defendant and plaintiff. It might be, therefore, that someone who is accused of harming another, they might actually be considered to be innocent, whereas someone who accuses another of harming them and claims to be a victim might actually be charged with bad behaviour or choices that are problematic in explaining how they became a victim. So the right realist would support this, for example, with the idea of victim precipitation. People who have been murdered often resort to violence first. People who have been sexually assaulted or raped, often there is some kind of victim precipitation. In other words, the plaintiff may entice or encourage interest from the opposite sex. And so in this sense, moral boundaries need to be reinforced. We need to avoid taking a soft approach to crime. We need to punish crime enough that people make the right choices, but punish any kind of behaviour needs to be judged fairly, so people choose to do the right thing. The new right have 2 strands, conservatism and liberalism, so influenced by the idea of retributive justice and fair treatment of behaviour. Wilson believes in the concept of choices, rational choices, so therefore punishment, so that the risks or the punishment, negative consequences outweigh the benefits of committing a crime. Wilson has this broken windows thesis, where essentially features in the environment, broken or graffiti on the walls, broken windows. These show that people don't value the community, and so that might encourage more serious crime. And so this advocates a zero tolerance approach, where any kind of minor crime is removed, such as homelessness, people who trying to beg money, and so on. The Marxists and neo-Marxists would criticise this view. They say this tends to blame individuals, ignores the reasons for choices, which is the wider context of poverty, unemployment, forcing people to commit crime, material deprivation. So they argue they might support rehabilitation. The feminists, again, would say that this tends to label individuals like women who are seen as bad mothers or bad women, and again this reinforces patriarchy. So they say the legal system is not fair, doesn't offer fair treatment, and that it's patriarchal. According to Smart, Pat Smart is a postmodern feminist who argues the language in court cases is often reinforcing this idea of natural justice. For example, the idea that a man reaches a point of no return of sexual arousal, and that women who entice sexual arousal from a man are taking a risk with their safety. Feminists say that this is wrong. Patriarchy and rape is all to do with culture and power. So the feminists would probably support rehabilitation, the idea of trying to encourage people to see masculinity and gender something that could be chosen rather than something that can't be controlled or needs to be controlled. Interactionists talk about labelling. They point out 6 times more likely to be stopped and searched for black or Asian. Becker would argue that police statistics are therefore socially constructed and flawed. Therefore it's not a fair process in the legal system, and therefore they support the idea of rehabilitation. Restorative justice involves mediation between victims and offenders. It's said to lead to a 27% drop in reoffending, according to Restorative Justice Council in the UK. And it's focused on trying to help offenders try to repair or make up for the harm they've caused in society. It might involve a victim explaining how they've been harmed and achieving resolution, because the offender apologises and feels guilty about what they've done, but that means they can then rehabilitate and reintegrate into society, because what they are is not being criticised, but what they've done. So guilt rather than shame means that reoffending can be reduced. The reoffending rate, or recidivism rate, is 50% in the UK, so that is seen as an important issue where incarceration in prison does not work. The left realists support restorative justice. They say marginalisation is one of the key issues where community and the police don't have a working relationship. They say that the criminal justice system doesn't offer fair treatment, and they criticise the functionalists and new right. They say that you need consensual community-based policing, where you're trying to work with members of the community to reduce offending. The postmodernist approach points out that a lot of the solutions to crime now are focused on what we call an actuarial approach to crime, which is basically based on an assessment of risk. An actuary is someone who assesses risks, especially in terms of giving people insurance premiums and paying out when someone's claiming on insurance. So actuarial focus on crime is basically trying to assess risk, and that's where you get the idea of situational crime prevention, which will be supported by the new right, making small-scale measures to reduce crime, such as target hardening, like plastic pint glasses, better locks on doors, better car alarms. The postmodernists would say that this is placing more emphasis on individuals. Could it lead to the displacement of crime from rich areas to poor areas, because the rich can afford gated communities and better locks, and the poor are more likely to be vulnerable to crime? This will be supported by Marxists, say that the criminal justice system is not fair because of capitalism. It protects private property. They'd argue that the protection of private property is a key element of the law. Crimes such as theft are punished more harshly than the unethical behaviour of large corporations, who receive fines which are fairly small in relation to the damage they do to the environment. So I've made relation to all of the key concepts there to further amplify what I've discussed in the longer videos. But that's been helpful. If you have any questions, email daniel_butcher@hotmail.co.uk.